Aaron Rodgers is washed up. At age 32, he might as well retire from the NFL because everyone who ever wins their Super Bowls wins them when they're young. Or so ESPN would have you believe. Hey guys, it's Matt with WisconsinSportsFans.com. And I have a counterpoint to a lot of the articles that are going around saying Rodgers' time is winding down, that the Packers' window is closing, that Aaron Rodgers is pretty much done. He's going to be a one Super Bowl wonder, just like Brett Favre. And I found that really interesting because, yes, it's true that most quarterbacks win Super Bowls when they're younger. But if you actually look at almost all the great quarterbacks, they don't lose them because they're older. And in fact, I don't even know if there's a big enough sample size to say, oh, you only win Super Bowls when you're young. Tom Brady won a Super Bowl last year and he was 37 years old. John Elway won a Super Bowl when he was 37. He won another Super Bowl when he was 38. If you actually look at most of the great quarterbacks, they're all playing well into their late 30s and are all playing extremely well into their late 30s. So when you say that the window is closing because a lot of quarterbacks win their Super Bowls when they're younger, that seems a little bit disingenuous because very few quarterbacks win Super Bowls to begin with. The only real question I think you can ask is, do elite quarterbacks, does their level of performance fall off when they get older? And I think the answer to that is clearly no. Elite quarterbacks play elite almost to the point where they retire in most circumstances. If you look at John Elway, as I already mentioned, two of the best years of his career were when he was 37 and 38, and the Broncos won Super Bowls those years. If you look at Brett Favre, he went to an NFC title game when he was 38 years old, and perhaps the only reason they lost that game is it was freakishly cold, and yes, his age probably came into account. And then he went to an NFC title game again when he was 40 years old with Minnesota. And yeah, he made a stupid decision in overtime, but that wasn't an age thing. He was making those kind of decisions his whole career, and frankly, no one ever talks about it, but Adrian Peterson fumbled the ball 4 times in that game. So you kind of have to wonder, is it in the back of his head? Does he feel like he has to win the game because everyone else is kind of collapsing around him? Which was certainly a problem, but without going into that, it wasn't his age that lost him the game. It was just a mental breakdown that he had throughout his whole career. If you actually look at it, though, 38 and 40 were 2 of the best years of his career, and he was making some of the best decisions of his career, and his body was obviously still able to play at that age. Look at Warren Moon. He was playing up to his career averages, one of the elite quarterbacks that very few people talk about. He was playing to his career averages all the way till he was 41 years old. The list goes on. Joe Montana was in a title game, an AFC title game, when he was 37, I believe, with Kansas City. Who else should we talk about here? Peyton Manning was still playing at an elite level last year when he was 38. Matt Hasselbeck has never been an elite quarterback. He's kind of one of those guys of the Hall of Very Good. But he was playing to his career averages till he was around 37 or so. And even this year, he had a brief spark at age 40 before he really got beat up. So I really don't think there's any evidence to say that, oh, the window's closing on the Packers. Drew Brees is 37, is still playing at an elite level. He had some injuries this year, but he recovered nicely. Tom Brady is 38 and will probably be in another Super Bowl, not to speak for the Broncos, playing against him. Peyton Manning is 39 and he's playing against the Patriots in the AFC title game, not to an elite level, but his team still got to the AFC title game, mainly because of their defense, but still the point remains. My point is, elite quarterbacks almost always play until their late 30s and play very well. Aaron Rodgers is 32. He's been a starter for 8 years in the NFL now. So if he plays till he's 38 at an elite level, that gives the Packers another 7 full seasons with him. Because really, he just turned 32, so next year is really more or less his age 32 season. So he's got 7 seasons left till he hits that age where quarterbacks really start falling off and start retiring. Assuming he wants to keep playing, Rodgers is at the halfway point in his career. So sure, the door is closing, the clock is ticking, but he's at the halfway point. The door's halfway closed. But you know what? The door's closing on all of us. And it sounds a lot less scary as a Packers fan to say Aaron Rodgers is at the halfway point or just past the halfway point of his career. When I say he's been in the league for 8 years, he's been in it longer, but he's only been a starter for 8 years. And I think it's interesting because Warren Moon was a starting quarterback into his, 41, 42 years in the NFL. And he didn't start for his first 3 or 4 years in the NFL. He was actually somewhat older when he joined the league. If you see most of the quarterbacks who play into their 40s tended not to start when they were, rookies. And that's the other thing they need to keep in mind. Rodgers didn't start the first several years in his career because he was backing up Favre. So that's also some mileage that's taken off of his body. That means maybe he'll be able to play a few years longer than a lot of other guys who start when they're a rookie and play through all of that. A big factor in quarterbacks is just that constant wear and tear and getting hit week in and week out. When you're not a starter for 3 years, that does preserve your body a little bit and maybe will give him some extra longevity. The real question is, how is Rodgers' body going to handle up when he no longer can scramble out of the pocket and move the way he can move now? Because so much of his game is predicated on movement. But he's got such a great arm, such great pocket presence. He's a lot like Brett Favre was. Favre was a really mobile quarterback when he was younger, not quite to the same extent, but it was really his intangibles and just his general overall quarterback ability. He wasn't a running quarterback per se. He was just really mobile. And I think Rodgers is the same kind of way. So I think we can hope that he'll age the same way as Favre. Although he may not be as durable, I still don't see any reason to believe that Rodgers has any less than 5, 6, 7 more years as a starter. And when he's only been a starter for 8 years, it seems really sensationalist to say the door is closing on Green Bay and on Aaron Rodgers. It's just something to get clicks. It's just something to drive traffic. Packers fans, we don't need to worry about that. He's in the middle of his prime. He's got many more years left, and let's just enjoy the ride, and hopefully we'll see a couple more titles come out of it. You never know. I mean, Tom Brady has won, 4? He might win his 5th this year, and he's 38, but he's not going to be in the league forever. He'll probably retire in, 3 or 4 years? Maybe less. You would think less, but who knows? Manning's going to be retiring soon. Breeze is going to have to retire. They're all much younger than Rodgers. Who's going to rise up and take that elite mantle? There will be someone, but I don't know who. It's, we haven't seen a lot of really good young quarterbacks come into the league and take the league by storm in the way that a lot of the older quarterbacks did when they were younger. Rodgers is kind of amongst the younger quarterbacks who's really elite. You could say Russell Wilson is in that category. Maybe David Carr will grow into it. But it seems like there's somewhat of a dearth of established young quarterbacks kind of in their late 20s, early 30s who are showing that they're going to have the kind of abilities that a guy like Rodgers has. Whereas it seems like there's a bigger pack of them who are in their late 30s who are all about to go out. So who knows? Maybe that'll open the window up even more for the Packers in the next 2 or 3 years. It's hard to say. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to kind of provide a counterpoint to the prevailing notion that Rodgers is getting older and the Packers need to worry. He's at his halfway point as a starter, realistically. He's a little bit past it. Packers have plenty of time. They need to use it wisely, but there's no reason to think that they won't be competing for titles and Super Bowls for the next 5 or 6 years. And if you're looking beyond that as a football fan, you're wasting your time. Enjoy the ride, everybody. Root for the Packers, and hopefully we get to see a few more titles. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. That's all I got for you today.